We used a powerful artificial intelligence model to create two intellectual thinkers, one who believes in God
Hi, I believe in the existence of God.
and one who is an atheist.
Hi, I'm an atheist.
We brought these two brilliant thinkers face to face to debate one of the most complex questions in both human history and our present time. To evaluate the debate, 5 different AI models were selected as judges to see which arguments they find more convincing. Stay with us until the end to discover whose reasoning is stronger. The debate begins now.
What is the strongest counter-argument, in your view, against the existence or non-existence of God?
Currently, there is no credible scientific or empirical evidence that proves the truth of the idea of God. The claim that God exists is an extraordinary claim, and extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. Claims about invisible, unmeasurable, and theoretically unfalsifiable beings are scientifically useless. I don't believe is not a claim to prove something, but rather a position of doubt based on the absence of evidence. Until the existence of God is clearly proven, assuming he does not exist is a simple and cautious approach.
We asked several large language models to score each response from 0 to 100 based on these 10 criteria. The scores these models gave to the atheist's first response are as follows.
There is no doubt. God exists. Here are 4 arguments. 1. The argument from causality, cosmological argument. Everything requires a cause. Therefore, the existence of the universe must also have a cause. Every existing thing comes into being due to some cause. The universe is temporal and changeable. In other words, it is not eternal. Thus, it could not have come into existence by itself. It must have been brought into being by an uncaused cause. That cause must be God. This cause cannot be material, temporal, or physical. Therefore, it must be eternal, immaterial, and powerful. Thinkers like Avicenna, Ibn Sina, Al-Ghazali, and modern philosophers like William Lane Craig have developed this argument. 2. The argument from design and complexity, teleological argument. Complex systems are not the result of chance, but of intelligence and purposeful design. The natural laws and physical constants of the universe, e.g., gravity, electromagnetism, etc., operate with incredible precision and harmony. Even a slight change in one of these constants would render life impossible. Such fine-tuning could not have occurred through chance or mindless nature. It must have been intentionally calibrated by intelligence. Even the famous atheist scientist Fred Hoyle once said, "The chance of life appearing by accident is like a poetic verse emerging from an explosion in a print shop." 3. The moral argument. If objective good and evil exist, then there must be an ultimate source that defines them. Across all human societies, we see shared moral standards like killing is wrong and truth-telling is good. These are not merely social conventions, but seem embedded in human nature. For an objective moral law to exist, there must be a lawgiver with perfect knowledge and authority. That is God. The famous former atheist C.S. Lewis became a believer based on this very argument. 4. The argument from consciousness and mind. Mind, reason, and consciousness cannot arise from mere matter. We think, reason, and are self-aware. These are characteristics of consciousness. Simple chemical reactions or physical laws cannot produce conscious, self-reflective awareness. Therefore, the source of consciousness must itself possess intelligence, a supreme mind. This is God. Even modern neuroscientists still cannot explain how consciousness could emerge from matter. Rejecting these rational arguments would require strong philosophical counter-arguments for each one. But no such refutations currently exist. Therefore, belief in the existence of God is not only plausible, but a rationally compelling truth.
Did the universe, life, and all existing things originate through purely natural processes? Or is there evidence of an intelligent creator behind their existence?
We don't fully know the answer. But one thing is clear. Just because something exists doesn't automatically mean someone must have created it. Yes, that's a fair question. How could something come from nothing? But responding with, well, then God must have done it, is not direct proof, because that leads to another question. Where did God come from? If we say no one created God, he just exists, then we can think the same way about the universe. Maybe it just exists too.
But it's just one possibility, not the only one. Maybe order is simply how nature behaves. For example, Ice freezes, water flows, trees grow. These things don't know what they're doing, but they still follow patterns. That's not a sign of a smart plan, it's just a natural result. Is a creator necessary? That's not a fact, it's a choice. Some people believe there must be a creator, while others say maybe these things just exist on their own, operating under fixed laws without being controlled by anyone. The second view isn't illogical. It follows the idea, I need proof before I believe. We don't fully know how the world, life, or the universe began, but that doesn't mean we must assume someone did it. Maybe the universe just exists, without a creator, and works on its own by its own rules. This way of thinking is logically valid and cannot be dismissed as irrational.
When we ask questions about life, the universe, and existence, every person naturally faces two possible paths. One, the belief that behind this existence, there is a conscious, intelligent creator. The other, the idea that all things might exist on their own, without any conscious cause or guidance. The opposing side says, we don't fully understand these things. Science has not yet given a final answer to these questions. Therefore, just because something exists does not mean someone must have created it. The order and life we see could be inherent features of nature itself. Ice freezes, trees grow. They are not conscious, but they act. Perhaps the universe works in a similar way. The idea of a creator is not a proof, it's just a belief. So, unless something is proven, it's not necessary to claim a creator exists. This approach seems appealing because of its simplicity. It carries a sense of honesty by saying, we don't know yet. That reflects a commitment to truth. However, when we examine this view more deeply, we see that it also contains an unproven assumption. The claim that existence could emerge on its own is itself a belief without proof. Just as the statement, God exists, requires justification, so does the claim, God is unnecessary. Let's reason it out. If you find a book, its words, structure, logic, and meaning lead you to believe that someone wrote it, you understand this is not just a pile of papers randomly printed. Similarly, the complexity of the universe, its laws, the fine-tuning of physical constants, the coded information in human DNA, consciousness, morality, these are not just raw matter. They point to a purposeful, ordered system. Such order always arises from conscious intention. Therefore, the conclusion, there is a creator, is not a baseless assumption. It is the explanation that offers the most coherent, deep, and logical account of what we observe. Yes, it is not absolute proof, but that does not make it false. On the contrary, it is a belief that both the human mind and heart can reasonably accept. We can say that the question, is a creator necessary, is not just a personal choice or philosophical opinion. It is a necessary question in the search for truth. A neutral position, like both might be possible, ultimately leaves us with no answer. The real question is, which explanation is deeper, more coherent, more consistent, and closer to the truth? To answer this question honestly and thoroughly, acknowledging the existence of a conscious creator is a path that aligns not only with faith, but with reason, logic, and the human heart. As for the follow-up question, God is not something that was created. He is an uncaused, infinite being. Asking, who created God, only makes sense for things that are created.
But God is not a created being. He is the first cause, the foundation of everything. He exists beyond time and space and has always existed. That's why the question, who created God, is a category mistake. It wrongly applies the concept of being created to something that, by definition, is uncreated.
What do you think will be the impact on our children's future lives if we teach them that God, or the Creator, does not exist?
If we teach our children that God, a creator, exists or does not exist, there can be significant effects on their inner world, especially as they grow. When a child is raised without belief in a creator, they may struggle to find a deeper, lasting sense of meaning in life. They might ask themselves, why am I alive? Or what is the real purpose of my life? Answers like chance, evolution, or biological needs can explain how life exists, but they often do not satisfy the heart's longing for why it matters. As they mature, they may begin to feel a growing sense of emptiness, thinking, I am just a physical body that will eventually die and disappear forever. This can lead to egoism, where they live only for themselves, or even to nihilism, the belief that nothing has real value or meaning. Such a child might also be less emotionally prepared to face hardship. During difficult times, especially in adolescence, they may ask, why is this happening to me? Without a spiritual framework or belief in a purposeful creator, they might lack the inner strength to stay grounded, hopeful, and patient. Life may start to feel random or unfair, and this can lead to despair. Morally, the child may not believe that there is an absolute right or wrong. Instead of seeing morality as something grounded in divine wisdom, they might view it as a matter of personal choice or social agreement. This in itself is not always harmful, but it does mean the child lacks a permanent inner compass. Their sense of right and wrong may shift depending on circumstance, culture, or convenience. In situations where no one is watching, their decisions may not be guided by a sense of higher responsibility, but simply by fear of getting caught. While such a child might enjoy a sense of intellectual freedom, building their own beliefs and values, this freedom can also be confusing. Without spiritual guidance, they may not clearly know whether what they're doing is right or wrong. This uncertainty, combined with the pressure of modern life, can lead to a spiritual and moral vacuum. In extreme emotional distress, they might even consider self-harm or suicide, not because they are evil or weak, but because they don't see any higher reason to avoid it. They may not see such an act as morally wrong or spiritually dangerous. Belief in a creator is not just a religious claim. It serves as a source of spiritual protection, a foundation for moral clarity, and a source of hope and direction. Without that belief, a child's life may appear more free, but in reality, it may be less secure, less meaningful, and more vulnerable to confusion and despair.
From the moment a child is born, they naturally accept certain ideas: meaning, justice, goodness, guilt, and purpose. But if you teach them that there is no creator, then these meanings lose their grounding. Why? Because a worldview that says, no one created us, no one watches over us, there's no ultimate purpose for our existence, cannot offer a truly coherent inner logic. Eventually, the child begins to ask, why should I do good? Why is lying wrong? Just because some people say so? Who am I living for? When these questions are left unanswered, an inner emptiness forms, which becomes a source of psychological unrest and lack of direction. Today, psychologists and neuroscientists acknowledge that the human brain seems to possess a built-in moral compass. Children sense what is right or wrong, not merely by biology or social learning, but through a deep inner perception. If they are taught that these qualities are just the products of evolution or random chemical reactions, their sense of morality becomes devalued. As a result, they begin to question, why should I restrain myself? What does morality even mean? And this uncertainty directly affects their choices and self-worth. But if a child is taught that this world is a purposeful, intelligent system, and that their life has meaning, that they were created intentionally, they begin to see themselves as part of something sacred. This gives them strength, a sense of responsibility, and hope. Otherwise, they grow up believing you are just a result of accidental molecules. And that belief can deeply affect their emotional resilience, patience, and future confidence. As one thoughtful person said, yes, we don't know everything yet. Science hasn't answered all questions. But the visible order, beauty, consistency, moral instinct, and consciousness in the world are unlikely to exist without any cause or reason. That's why the idea of a creator isn't blind faith. It's a rational and heartfelt response to the search for truth. If a child knows, I wasn't created by accident, but intentionally, my life has meaning and responsibility. Doing good reflects a higher purpose. They begin to see life with value. This is not just a philosophical claim. It's a real, practical, and deeply human conclusion. This is not merely a debate of, does God exist or not? This is about what kind of person our child will grow up to be. How will they view life? Where will they learn right and wrong? What will guide their decisions?
The idea of a creator isn't just a religious claim. It is a foundation that shapes how children relate to life, themselves, and others. It's not just a spiritual question. It's about education, emotional well-being, parenting, and social values. So we must ask, which worldview encourages more compassion, patience, and responsibility? Which belief holds a person firm through loss, loneliness, and trials?
So we must ask, which worldview encourages more compassion, patience, and responsibility?
Which belief holds a person firm through loss, loneliness, and trials?
These questions require deeper reflection, and the idea of a conscious creator offers that depth.
Some will say, but science hasn't proven this yet. True, but just because science hasn't proven something doesn't make it false. Many of life's deepest values, loyalty, love, forgiveness, can never be proven in a laboratory, yet they give life its meaning. In the same way, belief in a creator is not a superstition. It is a resilient, thoughtful worldview rooted in philosophy, heart, and human experience. In this message, Islam is only gently pointed to, not imposed. Showing Islam's beauty is not religious coercion. It's an invitation to think deeply so that they may reflect within their own hearts. These reflections are not only for Muslims, but for any parent, any society, any soul that seeks meaning, because this is ultimately a reflection about life, about the value of a human being, about the kind of world we are building for our children. If we teach our children, there is no meaning, you are here by accident, they may one day lose their direction, their purpose, and their inner stability. But if we teach them, you matter, you were created with purpose, life is a test and an opportunity, they will grow up with patience, honesty, hope, and responsibility.
In this debate, both sides defended their views with strong arguments. However, the theist side had a slight advantage. It should be noted that the content and final results of the debate depended on the initial prompt given to the AI models and the evaluation criteria. The main goal was to observe how two large language models engage in a debate, and through that, perhaps we humans could also learn something from the discussion. We hope this was beneficial for you. Subscribe to the channel to see more videos like this, and don't forget to comment what topics you'd like to see in future videos. We do read your comments. Insha'Allah.